Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to what is the third Willington podcast. And this is a slightly different one because this is more of having a look into our school setting. And today, I'm delighted to say that we have the music department with us. Yay. So we have a familiar face and an unfamiliar face. So I'll let you both introduce yourselves to my four listeners, and just give a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I think our visitor can have first dibs on that, Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah.
Rightio. Well, my name's Mr. Bradford, or colloquially I'll also be known as Harry, and I am joining the music department from September as maternity cover for Miss Baxter, I believe. Yep. And I will be running the chamber choir in the mornings, and as well as leading junior school music, I will also be hopefully teaching some singing lessons as well. So all things choral coming from my perspective, I guess. And I'm really, really excited to be joining the school and meeting everyone in September.
Yeah, amazing. And what's your background is obviously in music, but what's kind of led you here?
What's led me here? So yes, I did a degree in music, and then I did a master's degree in choral conducting. So I'm a specialist in working with choirs, I guess you could say. And before this, I've worked with a number of youth choirs and amateur choirs and professional choirs. And I've also been teaching for the Pimlico Musical Foundation as a freelancer, working in schools, giving in school and online singing classes. Yeah. Yes, now I'm hoping to transfer some of those skills into the classroom environment at Willington.
And I imagine, having done online lessons already, you were quite well prepared for what we've just endured.
Indeed, it's been a bit of a baptism of fire, I must say, getting totally to grips with teaching online. I've been obviously doing a lot of teaching via Zoom, and one of the strangest things, of course, is running a choir rehearsal at a video camera. So recording yourself for an hour running a choir rehearsal is very, very strange, because all of the cheesy jokes that you make, and which would probably get a pity laugh in a choir rehearsal, the response is just silence, and that can be a little bit disheartening. And actually you do realise just how much closer to that awful dad joke you are getting. You may as well be writing for the Christmas cracker season pretty soon. But but other than that, it is quite nice. And I feel like I was ready for the COVID pandemic as it came.
Yeah. And what schools have you been working in until now?
Yeah, so I've been working. I've worked in three primary schools around the Pimlico area. So at Churchill Gardens, St Gabriel's Pimlico, and Pimlico Primary. And then before that, I was also a cover Perry singing teacher at Belmont School as part of the Mill Hill Foundation up in northwest London. And then I've also run workshops and kind of done adjudicating things for Epsom College and also for Ibstock Place School.
Yeah. Yeah, we know them both very well. And Miss Calloway.
We beat them at sport.
We don't play Ibstock. No, Epsom. Well, no, luckily Epsom obviously senior, so we don't go to them, but we feed a lot to them.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's worth saying that I have two very close friends who are now working in the music departments of both of those schools. So if we were to beat them at sport, I would have been lording it over them immensely.
No, we just send, from my point of view, we send them athletes.
Okay, good.
So, I have a good. So their director of sport is Michael Johnson. So he's going to be my favourite ever head of sport, because he invited me for a lunch and then to go and watch like a schoolboys rugby match.
Oh,
nice. Like the best afternoon.
Yeah,
yeah. So all my best sportsmen are now going to funnel to Epsom.
Yeah. So you're getting all the lunches. That's ideal.
Of course, we have our music scholar off to Epsom as well next year as well. So, which is wonderful.
That is fantastic.
George in Year 8 is off to play trombone and piano and guitar and sing and all the other plethora of things that he can do. So
that's fantastic. Well, I'll let my friend who works in the department there, I'll
great.
look out for him as well. That'd be lovely.
Is that George J?
Jay, yeah.
Yeah, and a very good sportsman. He will. I'd said to you, I was not going to make this about sport. So I can't. But yeah, very good sport. Exactly. He's got his best years ahead of him, so they're very lucky. Right, so let's get into the department. So, Miss Calloway, what have the boys and girls now got to look forward to? Any kind of changes happening? What messages do we want to get out there?
I think the thing is, we've got so many talented students, and they are, as you know, so good at so many things. They throw themselves into all the activities on offer. So we're just going to give them a few more to choose from. And it's going to work a little bit differently within the curriculum. Obviously, with Harry coming to fill in for Alice while she's on maternity leave, we're going to have a male teacher down in that part of the school for the music side of things, which will obviously bring a different kind of vibe and to the music lessons there. And with Harry's background in singing, he will be able to offer some really fantastic foundational teaching. And so what we're going to be doing in the curriculum is that every boy or girl will be part of a year group choir. So we'll have a Key Stage 1 choir, a Year 3 and 4 choir, and a Year 5 and 6 choir. And our Year 8s will continue singing in their music lessons and through their various topics, and obviously be eligible to audition for the chamber choir as well. So that will be a fantastic additional opportunity for some singing in addition to what we do in assembly, what we do on a regular basis with productions, classwork, French lessons, all those kind of things. So there'll be that opportunity for every single person to be part of an actual choir.
Yeah, that's a massive culture shift. And I love that, because obviously, not talking about sport, but in sport, we obviously do the all-inclusive ethos where, you know, everyone gets their chance in fixtures. We set it up as a pyramid. So your bottom level is everyone competes and everyone has inter-house and everyone does, you know, the PE and all the rest of it. And then we tier it up into, you then have tournaments and you then have your scholarships, which I imagine music's really similar now. And looking at that, where you've got every single child now can get in the choir. Whereas I suppose before it was slightly more, you were cherry picked if you had the right attributes, and you know you could obviously sing or play instruments or whatever. But now obviously, which is amazing, because we are an all-inclusive school for all the subjects, they now have the chance to sing.
True, and I think like the other ensembles that we offer already is that for orchestra, for example, you obviously need to play an orchestral instrument and be at a certain level to even be able to access that. But singing is something that everyone can do, everyone's born with. It doesn't matter how many people say, you know, oh, I can't sing. I know I hear it from people my age as well. Oh, I can't sing. And someone's either told them that or not given them the opportunity to do it when they were going through school, and it's just not right. It's not right. So it is something everyone can do, and it's such a brilliant skill, and it's such an important skill even when you play an instrument, to be able to sing. It's the foundation of all really good musical learning, and it's inclusive in the sense that everyone can do it. But we've got the chamber choir, which is going to be I suppose the A team of the choral singers, and that one will be the only group that is auditioned, and that will be on an annual basis. So boys will audition each year to be part of that, and it will be a big commitment, 2 mornings a week, and I suppose it will continue, with the same kind of commitment that the choristers program had, that, you know, reliable involvement, really, really aspirational repertoire. I'm sure that Harry can tell us a lot about what you have in mind for the coming year.
Yeah.
In chamber choir.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say the other thing, just to point out, not to bring it back on a sport reference as well, but I was going to say that singing, like sport, releases endorphins and is one of those things that's incredibly enjoyable to do. So I think, you know, if we're just to make that that relationship, not always comparing it.
No, but I think what I'm really interested in, certainly with your background, Harry, is because I suppose, you know, the choir element of it, that's like when you've got your team and you're trying to get your team to do exactly what you want them to do. So how do you build, because this is from someone who doesn't understand it, how do you build a choir? Like what are the key points, what are the key things you're looking for? And again, it's like in sport, in the sense that you need people with different attributes and different abilities, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're building a choir, I mean, the first thing you have to kind of do is see what you've got when you first arrive. I mean, that's one of the most exciting things, is going into a music department, meeting everyone, and finding out what everyone's personal quirks are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. That's a really exciting process. And then, I mean, unfortunately, from a repertoire perspective, you have to kind of go in at the deep end and say, well, I'm going to pick this thing, and we'll see how we get on with something like that. I always think we'll try and pick something that that I think people will be successful in, because I think, you know, when we talk about building team morale, it's absolutely the same thing with a choir. And when you're singing in a choir, you want to be at your most confident, because one of the things about singing is that it can feel like quite a naked experience, if you might say. You're kind of, you're on your own. It's your voice, you know, and it's, you know, there's no instrument to hide behind to an extent. So what we want to do is engender a culture where everyone feels really, really confident singing with their voice. And one of the great things about being in a choir as opposed to being a soloist is that if everyone's got the same agenda, if everyone's on that same positive note of we're all in this together and we're going to all give our best, then you kind of feed off each other's confidence. And that's, and ideally, certainly from my perspective, that's one of the first things I would love to get from the Willington choir, would be a one where everyone comes into choir thinking, not feeling self-conscious, not feeling nervous, thinking we're all in this, we're all giving the same amount to the team. I mean, like, not to bring it back to sport again. I feel like I'm just
we might as well accept it's
I'm just pushing your agenda here. That's what it is. But yeah, it is exactly like kind of building that team morale that you need in any good sports team. So there's that, and then of course the other thing will be trying to ascertain what people's strengths and weaknesses are. Whether, you know, like you said, you need different types of players, you need different kind of people in a choir. There are people who have fantastic natural voices. There are people who are very, very quick at listening and can understand and learn something very, very quickly. There are people who are good leaders and show good discipline in rehearsals. You know, that all of these things are really important for the choir, and they all help the person at the front. It's something someone always told me, is that, you know, the person at the front is often, you know, is simply waving their arms. They don't actually make any sound. And there's stories of professional orchestras, for example, when they don't like a conductor, just the conductor gives a downbeat and they just don't play, to prove that you don't make the sound, we do. And I think that's the thing, is you want to feel that there's kind of that cohesive environment between, you know, you as a conductor or a vocal leader and the choir, that you're all making music together, and it's, you know, it's a communal process. And I think that's really one of the most important things about building choir. It's kind of building trust, and building a sense of confidence.
Yeah. And looking just from something you said, well, if you've got you've got a mixed ability choir, essentially, that's going to be happening. Yeah. So I know in sport, if we've got a lower ability boy, we would give them superpowers. So in rugby, they might have, you know, we give them the Hulk power, where they can run untouched for 10 or 15 meters to get them into the game.
Yeah,
absolutely. How do you do that in a choir? Because I know if you put me in a choir, it's not going to be that. I haven't got a very good voice. So
did we not tell you, Mr. Gibbs, there's a staff one as well?
Oh, the staff choir, obviously, yeah.
God. I just got told I sing like a rugby player. So I'm just a shouter.
Oh, this is the thing, is that, well, it's not true. And also, I think, well, there's a big stigma particularly about boys and singing, which you'll have probably heard about, which is, you know, it's kind of like singing is for girls, and the thing is, singing is for everyone. And I think it's one of those things that, like you say, there are people who think that, you know, or I shout as opposed to I sing, but actually the muscles and the kind of technique that we use in shouting, one of the exercises that I use as a vocal warm-up is essentially shouting, and then I will prove how actually singing it can be almost in a way seen as toned shouting. And it's one of those things. I mean, often, you know, I have to tell people, like, let's just tone that down so it's a little bit Twickenham at the moment, and that's you know, that's one of the things we have to do occasionally. But but like you said about encouraging people to you know, to be their best. I mean, a lot of the time, like I said, it really is a confidence thing. And so in your seating position in a choir, that's a really important thing. Thinking like, who's really, really strong, where are the friendship groups as well, like who can support people who are feeling a little under. The other thing as well is that a lot of the time I will break the choir down into parts, you know, into 2 or 3 parts with a simple round or something like that. And actually that feeling of individual responsibility when you're in a group of 3 or 4, as opposed to a group of 20 or 30 or something like that, can really bring people out of their shells. And I suppose it's exercises like that. And sometimes they won't work, sometimes they will. But it's kind of, if you keep trying and kind of using it as a kind of chemical weathering process and keep just trying again and again, often you find people. I mean, of course, the other thing is trying different repertoire, because for some people they might not get that enthused by La Panis Angelicus by Franck, but they might get really enthused by Happy by Pharrell Williams. And so you have to, as a director, you also have to have that flexibility to find out what people want to sing and what they feel really comfortable and what really energizes them. So, and I guess you need to kind of assess what the children want as much as yourself as well.
Yeah, because if I was doing karaoke, I would try to stay away from singing, and I probably drift towards like rapping, which I can't do either.
Yeah.
But how do you like? Is there a space in the music curriculum? So, Miss Calloway, this could be for you, for people who have those kind of different interests. Are there other what are the other clubs available for boys?
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about the singing clubs, and certainly, I mean, that just going back to the point about, is there a place for rapping? I mean, absolutely. In fact, the year 8s and year 6 in their songwriting projects have been creating some amazing rap songs. So it absolutely has as much value to be studied as any other sort of music. And that's the idea in the curriculum, is that massive range of repertoire. There's so many different styles of music. There really is at least one style for everybody. But, thinking about instrumental clubs, we've got an exciting development, COVID restrictions allowing with our orchestra this year. I know, Harry, you haven't heard them at all, and in fact you haven't even set foot in the building. This is what I keep forgetting. Your first day is literally going to be the first time you see the school. But they were an absolutely outstanding instrumental group this year, and
great.
We are losing a lot of our great players as year 6 and 8 move on, and we're really lucky to have a lot of keen newer players coming through. And this happens from year to year in a school, that when unfortunately children move on, well, not maybe for them because they've got exciting new things to go to, but for us, we build up that team, and it must be, again, sport reference, it must be the same. You build a team, you work together, you play off each other's strengths, you support each other, and then the next year you're kind of starting from scratch again. And to do that, and considering that Willington is going co-ed, we're not going to have the girls to join the orchestra from within house, so we're going to be involved with Wimbledon High. And
I really like this idea.
we're going to be combining with some of their musicians to make a Willington Prep Wimbledon orchestra that's going to rehearse on a Wednesday afternoon, which for those who have been in orchestra for several years, that's going to be a big change. It's always been on Thursday, but it's now on a Wednesday after school with some girls from Wimbledon High, and it's going to be an amazing group. And again, really looking forward to getting that new team, getting to know each other, bonding together, finding out our strengths, and finding out what we can do.
Yeah,
and of course there'll be smaller ensembles as well.
Okay, cool. And will the Wimbledon thing, will you compete at any events? I say compete. Will that choir go to different places and sing, or? Yeah,
I mean, well, it's very much that music's about collaboration, but it's also about competition. And with the House Music Festival being cancelled this year, that was a real shame for our boys, because I know that they are great at rising to challenges and
that is a highlight.
quite protective of their house. We are going to be performing in several festivals. We're looking to take part in the Music for Youth National Festival, which is another one, probably Merton Live, which is a more local event, and basically looking for opportunities to share our music making with the wider community. And the great thing about Music for Youth is that it is open all over the UK to any sort of musical groups. And there is an opportunity to progress not only from regional festivals and venues like the South Bank Centre right near Waterloo, but also up to the National Festival at Birmingham. And then there are selected groups that even go on to play at the primary proms in the Royal Albert Hall. So,
amazing.
I'm really ambitious for getting our students out in the community, showing what they can do and sharing their love of music and the great stuff that they're achieving.
Yeah, and it's that outreach that's really important, because I like saying it, because I actually meant to say it when I introduced Harry, was like, what, how have you managed to hear about the best kept secret in Wimbledon? But actually, we kind of, if I ever say I work in Wimbledon, I always get asked what schools I work at, and actually that outreach is going to get our name out there. So those big events is really what we want to be in and doing extremely well in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because the children are just fantastic. The quality of work, getting back to ensembles, the initiative that boys have been showing as well. Last year, there was a group of year fives that came to me and said, actually, we've decided we want to make a band. I said, great, go for it. The music room's free these days, and then suddenly there's no lunchtimes free in music room because everyone's in a band and they've booked in their time, and the ensembles that were put together for house music that nobody else got to hear but I got to really enjoy. Absolutely fantastic collaboration. There's a few brother teams that had worked together and come up with some fantastic stuff. Boys writing their own music. There's so much going on in all aspects, composing, performing, boys with analysis skills that are, learning to write about music, to put out podcasts of their own, vlogs, that there's a lot happening, and we're looking to share that more widely with everybody.
So we've covered the changes to the department. Have we looked at all the clubs that we're going to be putting out?
Almost all clubs, almost all. We're lucky to have Mrs. Spurgeon, who runs the woodwind ensemble, and that's always looking for new woodwind players to come join. There is the orchestra. There are going to be, depending on what instruments boys play and what groups of students are interested in doing more, we can put together some smaller chamber ensembles. They're groups that if we have enough violinists, say, continuing from the year 3 violin program, we might put together a junior string orchestra or some sort of string ensemble, like a trio or a quartet. Depending on what the boys bring to us, we will, make something for them and tailor it for their needs as well.
Is MTech continuing?
Absolutely, yes. It's really, really good that tech side of things can continue. It will be on the after school program as per usual, and that will all be information to be confirmed once we know that we can invite people into the building. And of course, there's always the instrumental lessons, which, well, Harry will be providing the singing lessons for those who are interested. That's something that you sign up for.
These are the Perry lessons, aren't they now?
Yeah, the Perry lessons. Yeah. On a rota basis throughout the day, not just to get out of maths, Mr. Gibbs. I hear some people, when they were at school, actually thought that I'm going to learn the trumpet because, it gets me out of maths lessons.
So Harry, this was literally, this was when we spoke about this podcast. I was saying that when I was little, I just used to see kids leaving lessons. And I was like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, going for music. I was like, ideal. Yeah. So I was like, Mum and Dad, I want to play an instrument. They're like, what do you fancy? I was like, I don't know. I think my friend Charlie plays the trumpet. Let's go for that. And so I remember my first lesson, which I was late for. I got there and I looked at the music sheet and I looked at what they were asking me to do. And I was like, oh my God, this is very, very difficult. And I basically did music to get out of lessons because I thought it would be easier. And in fact, it was far harder. And I think I'd only got like 2 or 3 pages into this like basic trumpet for beginners book.
Yeah.
And in the end, had to give up. And then I remember going to my senior school and we all had meetings with these different heads of departments. And the music man was like, hello. I was like, hi. He's like, do you sing? I was like, no, not really. Do you play an instrument? No, not at all. I think I might have had a black eye or something at the time. He's like, do you play sport? I was like, yes. He goes, okay, well, I'll see you in 5 years then. And that was literally my dealings with the head of music.
I remember similar. A lot of people in my school played for sport teams and were also music scholars at the same point. And I remember there being this issue between timetabling I remember the director of music and the head of sport used to come up in a clash as to, you know, who was more necessary for what, you know, it was concert day versus first 11 day. And it was, so it's nice to see the music and sport programs here, you know, being so cooperative. And
well, do you know what? That is such a brilliant point that you brought up, because we do actually, I've always made it a point with the heads of music that I don't want to be clashing. And as sport, we know how flexible we've got to be, because you know, we don't pick when tournaments are, we don't pick when anything is. So often it's quite difficult. I'm always taking kids out. But actually with music, and especially last year, we've worked out a really good system where just if I've got a fixture but you've got a concert, then it's a no-brainer. You know, the child will go to the most important event. Yeah. So we're really kind of careful with that. And at the end of the day, we give the kids the option, but from our point of view, it's if I've got a tournament I really need the kids for, then we kind of decide that way. But there's a lot of good chat, and we've already had our calendar meeting. You know, we make sure really the first point is to not clash. So that's kind of what we try. That's
ideal.
That's number one.
I was going to add that in. It's, you know, a lot of it comes down to the planning. So in all honesty, you know, I can count on one hand the amount of times that any of those issues that a boy would have to make a choice came up. And a lot of the time, if it's a repeated event like a recital, the recitals will keep continuing on. And if it just so happens there's one recital that clashes with a under 10s match, you know, then boys from that match won't play in that recital. You know, it's pretty easy. And you know, the boys are so keen. We want to give them the opportunity to do absolutely everything they want to do and that they're capable of doing, and you know, it's possible to organize.
Now I wanted to ask you, purely from my own point of view, in terms of sports coaching, it evolves all the time. So the way I taught 3 or 4 years ago, I cringe at now, just because of the way things seem to be moving. There's some really good thinkers around, you know, planning is now called can't remember it now. They call it, what is it? I have to come back to that. I can't think what it was. Something design, game design, we call it now. So it's not actually, or practice design. So it's not actually planning. We look at practice design, and we now, from the stuff I've read and the stuff we looked at, we now look at planning like a shopping list. And I don't know how this works with music, but in terms of a shopping list, you go to the supermarket with a plan of what you're going to buy. And so that's our normal planning. But actually, once you're in the supermarket, you then go, actually, I could do with 5 tubs of hummus. I could do with a dairy milk bar. I could do with all these other things. You start grabbing.
I'm feeling personally attacked by this.
But you start, I'm terrible for it. You start, you know, dragging all this stuff in. And that's what we feel like in sport. You know, we have our plan, but actually, by the time the lesson starts, it's out the window, and I'm now focused on if I saw people passing, you know, they weren't passing accurately or something else, like we can adapt to it. Is that what happens in music? Can you start a lesson and go, actually this isn't working, and then move into a different direction?
I would say absolutely. And in fact, when you consider the amount of curriculum music teachers who have taught in a peripatetic capacity before coming into a classroom, that's how your lesson works, is, you know, you're totally basing it around what are the skills that you need your student to be able to gain. You know, are there any particular goals that they need to meet within a certain time frame? You can know what the steps are, but like any process, you know, sometimes they might get different parts of the process more quickly or less quickly than others. When you're teaching even 2 classes side by side in a 2-form entry school, you know, a lot of the planning is, you know, here's a project that we're going to do. There's so many skills that just build and build and build on each other in music. And, you know, it's important to make sure that those foundational skills are just being constantly developed through the work that you do. And you do have to respond to what the children can do. And if they're flying with something, you've got to find them extra to extend them. And if they're not, then you've got to, you know, throw whatever you may have planned to do out the window that lesson and just say, okay, I'm seeing, you know, here we are, we're going to play this ensemble, but 50% of the class is not actually managing to keep a steady beat. Then you just say, well, until that kind of foundational skill is there, we've got to kind of throw away the next step and just focus on getting that part of it right, and getting those children achieving the really, really fundamental skills that they need to before we build it up again. So 100%.
I think I would add also just that in the way that I guess the visual from on a football field or something like that, you're always, I guess for us, we're always keeping our ears open. And it's one of those things that because we're constantly listening and constantly thinking, I mean, sometimes, like you say, you go into the room with any ensemble or any group of people, you come in with a plan, but, basically what that plan is in case everything is perfect, almost. But what you're actually expecting is to listen and react to what's going on in the room in front of you. So you have, like you say, you kind of have like a plan for guidance, or rough. I certainly would have like rough topic areas that I'm looking to cover, or like a rough plan for a lesson or something like that. But again, you just have to really, you have to be really in the moment and just respond to what's going on in front of you. So
yeah. And I often think as sports coaches, we get in the way a lot. I mean, I've spoken so much to the kids like about my rugby career. I'm like, boys, when I played, I would do this. Like, you stop the kids. You stop. The kids will be doing something. You stop them, and then I'll talk to them, and then we get them back in, and it's so stop-start. And I think as coaches, we get in the way. And I think, as you said, you've just got to keep your ears and your eyes open. And something I'm working really hard on now is just not stopping the kids, just letting them play and having little, we call it small talk on the run. So if we see something going on, I'll just take one kid over, have a little chat, and then let them go, because it's about just that constant engagement, which is really tricky. And Harris, I was going to come on to you about was if I look at how we teach the younger kids, and I would say not necessarily specialise in it, but I do love teaching those younger kids. I've done it forever. But in sport, we'd say, so if I'm teaching cricket, if I'm teaching a front foot drive, I would kind of teach a bit of technique, but I'm mainly asking the boys just to smash it as hard as they can, just to get used to it. Is there something like that in music? So how do you engage younger kids and get them really interested in music?
Yeah.
And what kind of, in the technique-based stuff, how do you develop it in smaller kids?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, actually. I mean, I guess the main thing is, from our perspective, we're like talking about constant engagement. One of the best things you can do with music, I mean, I have a number of like little kind of small, silly songs, for example, that have lots of actions and those kind of things that make music feel like it's potentially different to maths in a way. It's something that it's something that's fun and engaging and a little bit different and a bit physical and all of that kind of thing. Because of course, I mean, I'm purely coming from a singing perspective. I mean, singing is a physical thing to do. So it's good to have these. I try to do warm-ups and stuff that will engage people and make them think creatively, and it's important to sometimes you'll have people walking around a room or something like that, like you say, thinking a little bit outside the box, and getting people to feel like it's something fun. On the subject of, it's really interesting you talked about the kind of on the cricket shot about instead of going through all the technical detail, just kind of giving a little bit, but actually this is the aim goal. And I think it's very, very similar to what you'd be trying to look for from a singing perspective, because you basically want people to perform confidently, and it's very, very hard to perform confidently if you're inhibited by. So if you just make sure that your tongue is in this position, and then just make sure that you're doing this, and it's one of those things that I guess it's striking the right balance between giving them the confidence to be like, just sing your heart out and make a sound and enjoy it and have lots of fun and do these silly games with your friends, but at the same point just making sure that there is enough technical grounding that we're not injuring anyone, so to speak. Because unfortunately there is sometimes why people think they can't sing in later life is because they've been either shouting too much when they were younger or something like this, and it's just making sure that we're encouraging the right techniques, and of course there's the language that we use is so important, use of metaphor and that kind of thing. Sometimes when I talk about trying to access a head resonance or something, I'll talk about the little castle in the sky or something like that we actually need to access, and it's that's not to say that it means anything scientific, but it's just that kind of positive reinforcement, like keeping people engaged, but also trying to promote the right technique, if you see what I mean.
We do exactly the same thing. So we get the boys when they hold a cricket bat to hold it behind them, but we want it to be straight and we want it to be flat. So we say, what's your favourite dinner? And imagine your favourite dinner is on your cricket bat. So if you start, either way, it's going to fall off. So it's very similar. you know what I love is, having done this, there is so many crossovers between music and sport. You know, and I think we probably all have the same thing where teachers talk about different outcomes, but essentially for my lessons, the outcome is fun. You know, so we want to engage them, we want to get all the rest of it, but it's got to be fun. I think it's the same with music, because if you don't make it fun, they're not going to engage in it, and they're not going to continue to do it. I think there are lots of subjects in school where it's not about fun. It's very hard probably to make fractions fun and other bits and pieces in certain subjects. But I think we're really lucky that our subjects can be purely fun, you know, in those, certainly those early, you shouldn't really change it throughout the whole time, but obviously the technique and certain other parts come in that.
Well, I guess you want people to get hooked so that they then want to learn more about technique, and, you know, if they want to learn more about their front foot drive, or, you know, the race of their soft palate, you know, that's what we're trying to do, is get people interested in the subject so that they then maybe want to learn more, and we can get more technical and that kind of thing. So you know, at which point they find more enjoyment from it getting more technical, I guess. So, it's nice.
Absolutely. And I think we were talking a little bit about, you know, how you can see a 4-year-old sitting at a piano and playing something amazingly technically, yet you would never really see a 4-year-old being able to excel at that kind of level of an older person,
that technical level,
due to like the gross motor skills. And, you know, so even though there's a lot of overlap and things like that, I think that the potential for music to be learned, and opposite, you're never too old really, you know, just because you haven't learned those skills when you were younger and your body is developing, you can still come to an instrument or come to music at an older age and be able to pick it up and learn certain skills, because there is a slight difference in the parts of the brain perhaps, or the difference between the gross motor skills and physical strength that you might need. You don't need that necessarily as a musician, although you certainly need some massively well-developed muscles to sing and fill up, you know, an opera hall without a microphone and things like that. So, you know, there is some overlap, but, you know, that technical side of music, you can teach younger children those magical musical words, and, you know, they will grow up knowing, just using this vocabulary as a normal kind of thing. And again, it's not, oh, we're going to sit down and write a list and write out definitions, but if you use it in rehearsals, okay, we're going to take this at a different tempo, or let's get the dynamics really soft, or you're just, I've been accused by students of teaching them theory by stealth. It's like, you've been teaching us theory by stealth. It's like, oh, have I? I didn't realise that. You know, it is an academic pursuit as well as a fun one. And in having fun, I think, like you say, there are some subjects that you kind of maybe have to try to deliberately make it a bit more fun to engage. Whereas music, hopefully that aptitude, you see toddlers listening to music. They don't kind of sit on their bottom and sit really still. You know, they're moving to it, they're responding in a physical kind of way. So it's tapping into that natural affinity and that natural attraction, and then developing, you know, the skill and the knowledge that comes with it.
Right, gang, that was very enlightening. I really enjoyed that, and I actually think there's more, because I'm obviously mindful of the time, but there's so much more we can probably delve into. I'm really interested in, you know, that early specialization, or how you know, for sport we wouldn't want early specialization, but I know in music you can have it, but that then branches you off once you've learned how to learn the music and all the rest of it into other instruments and probably self-teaching yourself loads of bits. So I think we've got another one probably to do at some point.
Got it brewing.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe once Mr. Bradford's been in the school, at least.
We'll let you step
that would be
school.
handy. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I'm actually going to go on a cycle and cycle past the building. So I'll come wave past if anyone's there.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm going to end this and have my fingers crossed that it like somehow we get this recording. Otherwise that would be a nightmare. But thank you so much for your time, both of you. And Harry, see you soon. And Carol, see you soon as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
So what becomes of you, my love? handbags and the glad rags that your granddad had to sweat so you could buy.